This happened about 2 months ago. I'm 32 now, and I've been a middle school teacher for a decade. I really needed a break before the school year started, so I decided to go camping solo for the first time in years. The campsite I picked was one I remembered from my childhood. It was deep in a forest with tall pines and rocky outcrops. The lake nearby looked just as beautiful as I remembered, but there was something off about the place. There was no cell service, which felt strange, and only a few other campers were scattered around. It made everything seem lonely. I set up my camp. It was quiet. Just me and the woods. The first night was peaceful. I roasted marshmallows and fell asleep listening to the sounds of the lake. But on the second night, I woke up to laughter. It drifted through the trees like a familiar echo. I thought maybe another group was having fun. I was kind of curious but rolled back to sleep. I figured I'd find out in the morning. The next day, I hiked around. It was beautiful, but that laughter wouldn't leave my head. That night, the laughter got louder. It mixed with the sound of something clashing metal, maybe? Footsteps circled my tent. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I peeked outside, but everything was still. A few nights later, I was making dinner when I found something strange near my campsite. It was a bunch of little carved figures. They looked like people, but twisted and deformed. I picked one up, and my heart raced. It felt like someone was watching me. I dropped it, and it landed on the ground with a soft thud. The laughter continued, now mixed with those awful footsteps. I tried to think it was the other campers, right? But when I stepped outside, I noticed how silent it was. The other tents were dark. I told myself they were just sleeping. But why did it feel like the forest was closing in on me? I couldn't sleep. Every noise made my heart pound. I thought about packing up and leaving, but something kept me there. Maybe it was stubbornness. Those carved figures and that laughter haunted me. Was I really alone out there? I finally packed up my tent and headed home. As I drove away, I felt a weight in my chest. I thought I was free of that place, but I wasn't so sure. I glanced in my rearview mirror. It was just trees, but I felt eyes watching me, hidden in the shadows. Then, I heard a giggle. I turned quickly. No one was there. What was happening? My stomach twisted. It felt like I had never truly left those woods at all. I thought of those carved figures and the laughter. I kept looking back at the trees as I drove. They were still. I had a feeling they would watch me forever. The days passed, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Back at home, I tried to immerse myself in work and daily life, but my mind kept drifting back to that camping trip. I had memories of laughter and footsteps, but the carved figures haunted me most. I had tossed them aside, thinking they were just leftover debris from an artist's failed project. But why had my stomach turned at the sight of them? I decided to do some research. There had to be an explanation. I hopped on my laptop and dug into local folklore and legends. What I found was unsettling. In the woods where I camped, there were stories. Tales of strange creatures that roamed the forest, leaving behind sculptures as offerings or warnings. Some said they were the spirits of lost children, while others believed they were trickster beings bound to protect the forest. That night, as I sat on my couch, I heard a soft sound coming from outside. I swung the door open, but all I saw was the stillness of the night. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long shadows. I told myself it was just the wind. As I turned to go back inside, I heard it again. A soft giggle, unmistakably coming from somewhere nearby. Heart racing, I stepped out further. "Hello?" I called. No reply, just that giggle, now louder. My breath quickened. It felt familiar, and with it came the image of the carved figures. They had come from those woods, hadn't they? I slammed the door behind me and sat on the couch, trying to rationalize what I'd heard. Was it a child? I dismissed the idea. No one lived close enough for that kind of laughter at night. But then I started to wonder, maybe it wasn't just laughter. Maybe it was an invitation, or a warning. I grabbed my phone and decided to message a few close friends about my experience. They might find it funny. I received a reply from my friend Sarah almost immediately. "Hey! Remember that camping trip you took? I think it was really special. Did anything weird happen? I had a strange dream about you just the other night." A shiver ran down my spine. The details of my trip were too strange to share casually. I wrote back cautiously, asking her what the dream was about. There was a long pause before she responded. "I saw you in the woods. You were surrounded by these tiny figures, and they were laughing." I dropped my phone, my heart pounding in my ears. I felt my stomach twist into knots. What was going on? Was this a coincidence, or something more? Then, it hit me: Sarah hadn't even been on the trip. How could she have known? As I processed that unsettling thought, I leaned against the wall, wanting to scream. That's when I saw it. A dark shape darting across my yard, just at the edge of the trees. I blinked, and it was gone. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy fog in my mind. The shadows from last night felt like they were still lingering. I couldn't shake the image of that dark shape. I sat up and glanced out the window, half expecting to see something move in the trees, but all I saw were branches swaying in the wind. Still, unease settled in my stomach like a stone. I decided to get out of the house. Maybe a walk would help clear my head. I grabbed my keys and headed down to my car. I didn't have a specific destination in mind, but the woods were calling. It felt absurd to return there after everything I experienced, but I couldn't ignore the pull. As I drove, memories replayed in my mind: the laughter, the figures, Sarah's dream. I shook my head, trying to push away the worry. As I pulled into the parking area near the trail, my hands trembled slightly on the wheel. I parked and took a deep breath, gathering my courage. Stepping onto the path, the familiar sense of pine and earth surrounded me. My heart raced with each footstep. This was wrong. I shouldn't be here. But the curiosity was stronger than my fear. I had to know if it was all in my head. The trail wound deeper into the woods, and soon I was enveloped by trees. The dappled sunlight felt warm and inviting, yet I couldn't ignore the chill that wrapped around me. I pushed aside the urge to turn back. I had come this far. As I pressed on, I spotted a clearing up ahead. I walked towards it, the excitement and dread fighting for control. I stepped into the open space, and it hit me like a wave. The air felt thick, charged with energy. And then I saw it. Right in the center of the clearing were more of those carved figures. They stood there in a circle, their expressions twisted into expressions that felt almost alive. My breath caught in my throat. A part of me wanted to run, but another part was drawn to them. They were different from the ones I remembered. These were larger, more detailed, and it looked like flowers and twigs had woven through them, making them appear as if they were part of the forest itself. A rustle came from behind me. I whipped around, eyes scanning the surrounding trees, my heart pounding. Was someone there? I felt a rush of panic as the familiar giggle echoed across the clearing. My body froze, and I searched the shadows frantically. Then, from the corner of my eye, I spotted something moving. A small figure, no taller than my knee, darting through the underbrush. It was too fast to get a good look, but it had the same shape as those figures. I took a hesitant step closer, curiosity pushing me forward. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. The giggles stopped. Silence blanketed the clearing. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. I didn't want to be here anymore, but something compelled me to stay. That's when I noticed a glint of light in the grass. I bent down to look closer and felt a jolt of disbelief. It was a small, intricately carved pendant, one of the figures, just like the ones surrounding me. My breath hitched as I turned it over. The details were alarming in its precision, but what shocked me most was the name engraved on the back, my name. I stumbled back, my heart racing. How did this get here? Why was it here? Suddenly, a whisper floated through the air, soft and inviting. Come play with us. I spun around, but there was no one in sight. I was frozen, my body refusing to move. The whisper echoed in my head, a haunting invitation that danced just beyond my understanding. I blinked, waiting for my mind to clear, but all that met me was thick silence. The clearing felt alive, the carved figures watching me with cold stares. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were waiting for something. I took a step back, my instincts flaring. It was time to leave. But the ground felt oddly sticky beneath my shoes, like some invisible glue kept me rooted to this spot. I glanced at the pendant again. How had it come to be here, and what did it mean? My mind raced, thoughts colliding with confusion and fear. Then, there was that giggle again, this time closer, clearer. My stomach dropped. I wasn't alone, and I could feel it. Adrenaline surged through me, breaking the paralysis. I turned and sprinted back towards the trail, branches clawing at my arms as I pushed through the underbrush. Panic clawed at my throat. I didn't dare look back, fearing what I might see. Every rustle seemed amplified, every shadow threatening. I burst out of the clearing and onto the main path, my breaths coming in ragged gasps. Then I skidded to a halt. What now? I thought. I had come looking for answers, and now I wanted to escape. Instead of retreating back to my car, I decided to follow the trail deeper into the woods. Maybe there was something or someone who could help make sense of the chaos. As I walked, the sunlight faded. The towering trees became cloaked in an oddly thick shadow. I felt eyes on me. I couldn't shake the sensation of being followed. Stay calm, I whispered to myself. The sound of my voice felt strange but grounding. I knew better than to let fear get the best of me. Just then, a flash of movement caught my eye. To my right, a small figure darted out from behind a tree. It looked like the same shape I'd seen before. I stopped, heart hammering in my chest, but curiosity overpowered my instincts to run. Hello? I called, trying to keep my voice steady. Is someone there? But instead of a response, I heard the unmistakable sound of laughter, delightfully innocent yet unsettling. It was infuriatingly familiar, sending chills racing down my spine. I took a cautious step forward, peering into the thickets. Was it real, or was my mind playing tricks on me? Suddenly, branches snapped, and I jumped back, eyes locked on the space I'd just scanned. In the darkness, another figure emerged, only now it was not just a shadow. It was a little girl, with hair that seemed woven from leaves and eyes bright as the moonlight. You found us! She exclaimed, her smile wide and unsettling. Confusion wrapped around me tightly. Who are you? I managed to ask, my throat dry. But the girl just giggled again, and as she did, the shadows behind her began to shift and swirl. There was no going back now. I turned to run, but my legs felt heavy, as if the forest itself had conspired to hold me in place. And that's when I felt it, the ground trembled beneath me. Everything around me began to warp, twisting as if the very essence of the woods was alive. The air grew thick, and my panic surged anew. With a burst of desperation, I sprinted toward the path, but something grasped my shirt. I swung around, breath hitching, ready to confront whatever was behind me. I found nothing but darkness and the girl's giggle echoing in my mind, trailing behind me like a ghost. I stood there, frozen like a deer in headlights. The laughter lingered, reverberating in my ears like a haunting melody. Just as panic was about to consume me again, an unexpected rustle in the underbrush caught my attention. I turned to face the sound, heart pounding in my chest. The thicket parted, and 3 more figures stepped out. Each one was a girl, all wearing dresses made of moss and twigs, their hair braided with wildflowers. They were identical, smiling with the same unnerving glee as the first girl. "Come play with us," one of them chirped, her voice sweet yet oddly menacing. I took a hesitant step back, but the earth trembled again, a low rumble echoing through the trees. Instinct kicked in, I had to get away. I turned and sprinted, the forest closing in around me. Branches whipped at my arms as the girls' laughter rang out like an eerie choir behind me. "Don't you want to see?" Another voice called, this one softer, "Sing Sanji. There's so much fun to be had." I could hear them following, the soft patter of tiny feet pounding the ground behind me. Whatever these girls were, they seemed to thrive on my fear. It fueled them, made them bolder. I risked a glance over my shoulder, and what I saw nearly made my heart stop. They were running in place, their feet barely touching the ground, their smiles never wavering. I stumbled and fell against a tree, desperation flooding me. The world around me felt unreal, as if everything existed on the brink of a nightmare. I pushed myself up, eager to put as much distance between me and those girls as possible, when my foot caught on a gnarled root. I hit the ground hard, the breath knocked from my lungs. Pain shot through my ankle, but I scrambled to my feet regardless. I needed to think. What was happening? Could I reason with them? That thought seemed absurd, but what choice did I have? I finally managed to croak out, "What do you want?" Silence replaced the laughter, and I squinted into the shadows. The girls had stopped. They shared a glance, then turned to face me. "You're the one who found us," the first girl said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Now you have to choose." "Choose?" I echoed, bewilderment rushing back in. "Choose what? Could we show you?" Another girl chimed, stepping forward. "You'll have so much fun. It will be a secret just for you." Before I could respond, I spotted the pendant lying glinting just in front of my feet. It pulsed with an awareness, tugging at my curiosity. Was this the reason I'd been drawn here? To discover whatever strange magic this pendant held? But just as I reached for it, the ground shook violently, snapping my attention back to the looming figures. Shadows warped and morphed, twisting into shapes just beyond the edge of my perception. I hesitated, fear clawing at my instincts to escape. Those girls were not just innocent, they were part of something much darker. Then, a sudden thought raced through my mind: what if I can't escape? The very forest felt alive, responding to a force I couldn't see. "Okay, let us see your secret," I finally blurted, heart hammering. It was a gamble, but perhaps it was the only way out. The girls giggled, their laughter a harmonious blend that sent shivers down my spine. "Follow us," they sang in unison as they led me deeper into the woods, the shadows whispering and curling around us like smoke. I took a deep breath, but dread pooled in my stomach. Whatever awaited me could be far worse than I imagined. The deeper we went, the more surreal everything became. The forest transformed into a tangled maze, with trees bending like old men whispering secrets to each other. The branches crisscrossed above, blocking out the weak sunlight and casting eerie patterns on the ground. I looked at the girls, still smiling, their eyes gleaming with an unsettling light. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice wavering. "To the hidden grove," one of the girls exclaimed, her excitement far too genuine for my comfort. "It's south the most magical place." Magical? I couldn't help but scoff, though it came out choked and terrified. I didn't feel any magic, I felt trapped. An animal instinct nudged at me, begging me to run, but my feet seemed glued to the ground. We finally arrived at a clearing, a strange spectacle unfolding before me. Flowers bloomed in colors I didn't recognize, glowing softly in the dim light. In the center stood a massive stone, covered in symbols that twisted and turned, almost as if they were alive. I stared, captivated. "Touch it," one of the girls urged, bouncing on her toes. The others echoed her excitement, their voices a chorus that filled the air. "Touch what?" I muttered, pointing to the stone. Something felt wrong. My gut told me to stay far away from it. "Your choice," the first girl sang, her eyes wide and expectant. The pendant was slipping from my mind. I had forgotten about it in the chaos of this surreal moment. But now, as the laughter danced around me, I recalled its pull. It beckoned like a whisper in a dark room. Realizing I hadn't made a choice, panic twisted my insides. I stepped forward, my hand hovering over the stone. "What happens if I touch it?" "Fun!" they exclaimed, the joy in their eyes a jarring contrast to the darkening shadows looming around us. "Fun?" I challenged, shaking my head. "Your fun or my fun?" "Yours," they promised, but there was something too eager behind their words. I could feel the air thickening, tightening around me like a noose. "Just touch it." A sudden urgency flooded their voices, and I couldn't help but feel it rise in me, too. It stirred the pit of my stomach, whispering that I needed to act. Then, everything went still. The laughter faded, and a heavy silence hung in the air. I blinked, confusion setting in. The girls froze mid-motion, their smiles fading to expressions of something darker, something that felt very much like hunger. Maybe I should choose," one girl shouted, her voice echoing unnaturally. I stumbled back, the forest shivering around me, and for the first time, I realized I wasn't just a visitor here, I was prey in a game I didn't understand. That's when I saw it. A glint of silver beneath one of the roots, a knife, slick and ominous. My heart raced. The choice felt sharper now. Whatever fun they promised didn't feel playful. Something was about to happen that I couldn't endure. But instead of retreat, my hand reached for the knife. The girls watched, their eyes wide with a mix of excitement and something more sinister. I could almost hear the forest breathe, wrapping me deeper into whatever dark choice had been laid before me. I gripped the cool metal, adrenaline coursing through me. This was no ordinary camping trip. Someone was going to pay for my decision, but right now, I had to hold on to my chance at survival. Chapter 2. The moment my fingers closed around the knife, the world shifted. The girls' eyes lit up with an almost frenzied anticipation, their previous joy morphing into something predatory. I felt like I'd stepped onto a stage, the spotlight burning down as the audience waited, hungry for the show to begin. "What now?" I asked, my voice trembling again. "Choose." They chimed once more, the fervor in their voices making me feel sick. I glanced at the knife's blade, still slick and shiny, reflecting the odd light from the glowing flowers around us. Part of me screamed to put it down, to run as far away from them and this grove as I could. But another part urged me to stand my ground. I took a step back, adrenaline surging through me. "What if I don't want to play your game?" "Play. Play." They chanted, their voices harmonizing like a twisted song. The air vibrated around us, and the tension pulled tighter, squeezing the breath from my lungs. "Do you want to see magic?" one girl whispered, and for the first time, her voice held a softness, as if she was inviting me into something I couldn't comprehend. "Just touch it. You'll know." I steadied my trembling hands. "And if I don't?" They fell silent, the weight of their stares heavy on me. I looked back to the stone, the symbols twisting more aggressively now, almost like they were alive. An overwhelming impulse tugged at me, urging me to yield, to give in. The knife felt warm against my skin. "I'm not afraid of you," I tried to assert, though my heart thrummed with the opposite truth. Then, with a sudden flicker, the flowers around the grove pulsed bright white, and I gasped. They seemed to breathe with life, shifting and quivering as if they were watching me too. I lifted my head just in time to catch a flicker of fear flutter across the girls' faces, as if the grove itself held power beyond their understanding. "Don't let it see you, don't let it know you're afraid," one girl hissed, her voice barely a whisper, urgency lacing her words. The group stared intently at me, anticipation and dread intertwined in their expressions. "Let what see me?" I demanded, but the path beneath me warped as shadows grew thicker around the edges of the clearing. I could feel a force creeping along the roots, slithering closer to me. Suddenly, a branch snapped behind me, the sharp sound slicing through the moment. I whipped around, adrenaline crashing against my chest like a wave. That's when I caught a glimpse something dark and shapeless, barely visible amidst the trees. It was watching. I could feel its gaze piercing through the shadows. "Run!" I shouted, without thinking. The girls' faces twisted from excitement to horror as I turned and sprinted for the trees, the knife still clutched in my hand. "Wait! Don't!" they cried, but I didn't look back. My heart raced as I stumbled over roots, branches clawing at my clothes, trying to hold me back. I had to escape. I could feel the darkness closing in, an entity bigger than all of us. It was alive, and it wanted something. Then, the ground shifted beneath me, a low rumble echoing through the forest. Panic surged as the trees shook, their branches swinging wildly. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry for help. But the forest swallowed my voice whole as I ran, deeper into the shadows that promised both terror and certainty. I had to find out what the dagger, the grove, and the girls truly meant, or it would cost me everything. Chapter 3. I burst through the trees, my lungs burning as I gasped for air. The forest thinned out ahead, and the moonlight streamed down, casting silver pathways across the ground. I stumbled onto a small clearing, but I barely had time to collect myself before I heard a deep, echoing growl. Cold dread curled in my stomach. I turned, scanning the shadowed trees. The darkness writhed, shifting, and pulling back like a living thing. Whatever was out there was closing in. I glanced at the knife in my hand. The urge to use it was overwhelming, but for what? And against whom? I dropped my gaze to its blade, remembering how the girls had reacted when I held it like I carried a secret too powerful to comprehend. That's when I saw it. A shimmer flickered in the distance, glowing faintly like the flowers in the grove. I squinted, hoping it was just some natural phenomenon. But as I took a cautious step forward, the glow pulsed again, more insistent this time. "Maybe it's a way out," I whispered to myself, though doubt nagged at me. The memory of the girls' fervent faces loomed large in my mind. The growling intensified, vibrating through the ground. I could feel the energy in the air shift, the tension, the fear. Something was coming for me, and I knew I couldn't stay still. I darted toward the shimmering light, my heart pounding. The glow spiraled as I approached, revealing what looked like a stone marker, ancient and carved with intricate designs that matched those in the grove. It stood taller than me, and I could sense a power radiating from it, drawing me closer. Then, as if responding to my presence, the growling stopped. An eerie silence blanketed the clearing. The air felt charged, ready to snap. I raised the knife, unsure of what I might have to defend myself against, and hesitated, caught between trying to understand and the instinct to run. "Why is this happening?" I muttered, aware that even the forest wasn't inclined to answer. I had jumped from one nightmare into what felt like another, just as uncertain and dangerous. A sudden rustle behind me made my skin crawl. I spun around, knife gripped tightly. The shadows danced, shifting, but I didn't see anything. Just that threatening presence looming still, like it was waiting for something. Without thinking, I brought the knife down against the stone marker. The blade struck with a sharp sound, and a rush of energy surged through my arm. The glow flared brighter, illuminating the clearing in a blinding golden light. I staggered back, shielding my eyes. That's when I felt a connection, something pulling at my very core, like a thread wrapped around my heart. It wasn't hostile, it felt almost welcoming. But as quickly as the light had appeared, it flickered erratically before dimming, leaving me standing in darkness once more. I glanced back at the trees. The shadows had twisted into forms, far more defined now. Then, amidst the gloom, something shifted. I spotted movement, a figure emerging from the trees, its features obscured but its posture unmistakably menacing. Panic surged anew. "Who's there?" I called, my voice trembling. The growl returned, louder this time, rising up from the depths of the forest. I backed toward the marker, every instinct screaming for me to run, but I couldn't look away from what was coming. "Please," I whispered, as the reality of my choices crashed into me. I was out of options, and the true game was only just beginning. Chapter 4. I couldn't breathe. The figure stepped forward, its shape becoming clearer in the dim light. It was tall, impossibly tall, with long limbs that seemed to stretch from shadow to shadow. The growl deepened, a sound so primal it sent a shiver down my spine. "Back away!" I shouted, raising the knife as if it could protect me from whatever this was. My heart raced, and for a moment, I considered turning and sprinting deeper into the forest, but something anchored me to the spot. The figure paused. There was a flicker of uncertainty in its stance, almost like it was hesitating. I stood frozen, unsure if this brief lapse was an opening to escape or a signal to prepare for the worst. The air hung thick with tension, a quiet before a storm. I strained my ears, listening not just for the growl but for any sign of others. The forest felt alive, each rustle and snap of a twig now amplified under the weight of fear. Then I felt it, a tug on my consciousness, something trying to pull me toward the marker again. The stone shimmered faintly, and I looked back at it. Maybe it was the key. It had reacted when I struck it. I quickly glanced back at the figure, who still seemed to be sizing me up. If their intention was hostile, I needed to change the game. I lunged for the marker, knife poised, and struck it once more. The impact sent a shockwave through me, and bright light filled the clearing, momentarily blinding me again. I could feel that connection from before surge alive, wrapping around me like a warm blanket. A voice echoed in my mind, familiar yet distant. "Trust the light." It wasn't spoken aloud. It was a pulse of thought, a message delivered from somewhere deep within the ground beneath my feet. I turned my head slightly, bracing for a reaction from the figure. But the glow settled into a steady, golden hue, casting away the darkness that threatened to engulf me. I could see the figure more distinctly now. It was still menacing, but there was something else, a curiosity in its stance, a hesitation that hadn't been there before. I took a shaky step towards it. "I don't want to fight," I called out, my voice steadier than before. "I'm just trying to understand." For a moment, the growl faded to silence, replaced by the soft rustle of the trees overhead, as if the forest was listening. The figure shifted, and I noticed its features starting to sharpen, eyes like burning coals, a skeletal face partially veiled in shadow. "Stay back!" it rasped, its voice grating against the air. "You don't belong here." I felt a pang of defeat. The word stung, but I pressed on. "I don't know where here is. But if you know something, please, it's not just me. I'm part of something bigger, something that feels alive." The creature seemed to contemplate that, its growl morphing into something more subdued. There was a soft whimper from the depths of the trees. I glanced at the other shadows, and my heart sank when I saw more figures moving, creeping toward the edge of the clearing. More of them were here. Somehow, things were about to get worse. "Where do we go from here?" I asked the first figure, dread pooling in my stomach as I felt the weight of their collective gaze. The answer was clearly about to shift everything I thought I knew. As the space between us stretched taut with anticipation, the darkness beckoned, hungry for answers. My breath caught in my throat as the shadows shifted, the figures loomed larger, and their intentions felt far from benign. Each pair of glowing eyes glared through the darkness, echoing the unease I had felt since I first entered these woods. The growl seemed to reverberate in my bones. "Please, I didn't come here to fight," I stammered, heart racing. "I just want to understand. This place, what is it? What do you want from me?" The tall figure shifted closer, the coals of its eyes flaring as it stepped forward. "You are a trespasser, drawn by the whispers of the forest. You seek answers, yet you cannot comprehend what lies before you," it rasped, the ground trembling with its voice. Frustration welled within me. "How can I possibly comprehend anything if you won't let me?" I shouted defiantly, gripping the knife tighter. The last thing I wanted was a fight, but I couldn't let fear drown me either. "Show me." For a brief moment, the creature paused, contemplating my challenge. I could see that uncertainty flitter across its features, the predatory glint dimming slightly. The other figures remained silent, almost still, as if waiting for a command. The tension built, thickening the air, wrapping around me like a tightening noose. Then, without warning, it struck. A flash of movement, and before I could register what was happening, a smaller shadow darted past me, headed straight for the marker. The stunned silence shattered as multiple voices echoed through the clearing, overlapping and chaotic, tossing insults and laughter into the air. "Don't let her touch it. She'll ruin everything. Do something." I swung around to see a little figure sprinting toward the stone, one of the girls from the grove. She reached for it, fingers brushing the surface. The light flared again, almost blinding, wrapping around the clearing like a living veil. "No!" I yelled, unsure if I was trying to warn her or assert control over the chaos. But the girl pulled back, stumbling as the light swirled around her. The ground shook violently, and the intricate symbols began to pulse with energy. The other figures fell silent, their eyes wide, fear etched on their faces. The tall one lunged, whisking forward. "Get away!" But the girl fell backward, and the glow expanded, engulfing us all in radiant warmth. Anxiety coursed through me as I watched. Whatever force this was threatened to consume everything in shadow. I gritted my teeth, fighting the pull of darkness that gnawed at my sanity. Was there truly a choice left? What did they want? The light flickered in cadence to my racing heart, and I understood I needed to choose my response, to reclaim control from the disorienting circumstances that spiraled around me. "Hold on!" I shouted. The creatures froze, confusion plastered on their faces. "What is happening here? You don't have to act upon instinct. There's more at stake than you know." The tall figure paused again, its features softening just a fraction as if considering my words. The laughers behind it registered my desperate plea, a sense of urgency etched into their twisted smiles. "Speak then," it pronounced, leaning closer to me, intrigued. "What do you offer?" I hesitated. What could I offer? Clarity struck me like a bolt of lightning. "You want my trust," I said slowly, feeling every word form consciously in my heart. "But trust is built on understanding. Let me learn. The woods and their mysteries had called me here for a reason, allow me to find it." The growling subsided, and something in the tall figure shifted. But the moment was fleeting. The girl who stumbled now knelt on the ground, clutching her head as the light expanded outward, bathing everything. The laughter surged again, wild and chaotic, stripping away the resistance. My heart pounded in time with the glowing pulse that enveloped us. "Make her stop," I urged, knowing that whatever was happening could spiral beyond control. The forest seemed to draw breath. The little girl finally spoke, her voice trembling with buried excitement. "You'll never leave if you don't play. The woods demand a game, and if we don't give in, we'll all become trapped." Trapped. Those words echoed painfully through my consciousness. What game? Whose rules? I felt the weight of it all, creeping determination unfurling within me. This was manipulation, a game I hadn't signed up for, yet here I was, entangled in it. Then I choose. I shouted, heart full and raw. If there's a game to be played, then I choose to decide my fate, to know the truth, to live or to die by my own hand, not by yours. The glow intensified, illuminating the forest in a dazzling display. Together, the shadows convulsed, caught in the crossfire of mortals and myth. I stood defiant, clutching the glimmering knife while transient whispers cascaded around us. Suddenly, the forest erupted in sound, laughter blending with desperate cries as the ground shook, a finality crashing down as the figures vanished. The light faded like a dying ember, leaving me standing alone in the clearing. Silence washed over everything. I collapsed to the earth, breathing heavily, the knife still cradled in my hands as I searched the remnants of chaos around me. But as the trembling subsided, a single question haunted me. Did I escape or merely delay the inevitable? I could feel the weight of the forest behind me, still lurking, still waiting. I stood slowly, mind racing, and for the first time realized I had only scratched the surface. The woods had whispered, but only I could determine if the answers were worth the reckoning. As I took a cautious step into the shadows, the questions hung heavy in the air, unanswered and unresolved. What else lay ahead? Would there be consequences for my choices? The darkness pulsed, relentless in its promise, as I ventured deeper into the forest.